A brand new bill in Washington could ban Mercedes from selling cars in America, not because of safety, not because of tariffs, because of who owns a piece of the company. And if this sounds familiar, that is because we already told you a version of this story. Back when we covered Polestar getting banned from selling new cars in the US, we told you it was owned by a Chinese company called Geely, and that Geely's founder, a billionaire named Li Shufu, also owns Volvo. Well, Li Shufu is back in this story, and this time the company on the chopping block is Mercedes-Benz, a name that has absolutely nothing to do with China in the mind of the average car buyer. Here is what actually happened. On July 22nd, the Senate Commerce Committee voted unanimously to advance a bill called the Connected Vehicles Security Act of 2026. The bill was originally introduced back in April by Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio and Senator Elissa Slotkin of Michigan, and it would permanently ban any automaker with more than 15% Chinese ownership from selling connected vehicles in the United States, starting with software restrictions in 2027 and hardware restrictions following in 2030. This is not a brand new rule from nowhere. It takes an existing Commerce Department regulation from January 2025, the same regulation that got Polestar banned, and turns it into permanent law, so a future president cannot simply undo it with the stroke of a pen. So why does a German luxury brand like Mercedes end up caught in a bill clearly aimed at China? The answer comes down to its shareholder list. Mercedes-Benz is almost 20% owned by Chinese investors. The state-owned Chinese automaker BAIC holds just under 10%, making it Mercedes' single largest individual shareholder. And who holds the other roughly 10%? Li Shufu, the same Geely founder who owns Volvo and Polestar. Add those two stakes together and you get close to 19.67%, comfortably above the bill's 15% line. To be clear, this bill covers vehicles linked to Russia, Iran, and North Korea as well. Not just China, but it is the Mercedes situation that has grabbed the most attention since nobody expected a household German luxury brand to be the company most at risk. Mercedes itself has no operational ties to China in the way this bill seems to imagine. The company is headquartered in Stuttgart, Germany, employs more than 10,000 people in the United States, and builds vehicles at plants in Alabama and South Carolina. It is not a Chinese company hiding behind a German badge. It simply has Chinese shareholders on its stock exchange listing, the same way any large public company can attract investors from anywhere in the world. Even the people writing this bill admit the Mercedes situation is awkward. Senator Ted Cruz, who chairs the Commerce Committee, voted to advance the bill but immediately criticized the 15% threshold, saying it would effectively shut Mercedes out of the American market if left unchanged. Cruz argued the rule should instead use a more careful, case-by-case national security review, similar to how the government already screens foreign investments through a process called CFIUS, rather than a flat ownership percentage that catches companies with no real security risk. Then things got even more interesting. Cruz went further and accused General Motors of quietly pushing this exact provision into the bill, suggesting GM wanted Mercedes knocked out of the American market to clear space for its own Cadillac brand in the luxury segment. One senator on the committee even said, in defense of the bill, that China's auto industry was not built to compete, but to destroy American manufacturing and undermine national security, showing just how heated the underlying debate has become. Senator Bernie Moreno, who co-wrote the bill, pushed back hard on the GM accusation, pointing out that GM actually plans to shift production of its own China-built Buick Envision to the United States by 2028, which he argued proves GM is not trying to dodge the rule for itself. Mercedes has not been sitting quietly through any of this. The company lobbied hard to raise the ownership threshold from 15% up to 25%. Which would have comfortably cleared Mercedes of any risk. That request did not get enough support from committee members and was left out of the version that passed. Moreno did confirm that Mercedes would be given until 2030 to come into compliance, and that the company could apply for a waiver from the Commerce Department if it needs more time or wants to restructure its ownership. It is worth noting Mercedes has stayed relatively quiet in public, previously declining to comment directly on the legislation while pointing to its American footprint instead. It helps to see this bill next to what already happened to Polestar, since the two stories share the same owner and the same underlying concern. Polestar was banned under the existing Commerce Department rule earlier this year, even though its cars are built in South Carolina and South Korea, not China. Volvo, which is also owned by Li Shufu's Geely, was granted a waiver under that same rule around the same time. Now, this new bill would take that entire approach and lock it permanently into federal law, removing the flexibility a future administration might have used to change course, soften the threshold, or grant more waivers down the road. There is also a bigger practical wrinkle here. American showrooms do not actually sell many Chinese-branded vehicles right now, mostly because of existing tariffs that already keep them out. So the real impact of this bill may not be about blocking obvious Chinese brands at all. It may end up mattering most for companies like Mercedes and for joint ventures and badge-engineered vehicles built through complicated international ownership structures, cases the bill's authors may not have been thinking about when they first wrote it. Research from the consulting firm EY Parthenon has estimated that fully separating Western and Chinese supply chains across every industry could cost as much as $23.6 trillion, which helps explain why most policies like this one aim for targeted restrictions instead of a complete split. This bill still has a long road ahead before it becomes law. It now moves to the full Senate floor for a vote. On the House side, a companion bill numbered H.R. 8730, introduced by Representatives John Moulinar and Debbie Dingell, still needs to pass through three separate committees: Energy and Commerce, Ways and Means, and Foreign Affairs, before it even reaches a House floor vote. If both chambers eventually pass their own versions, lawmakers would then need to reconcile any differences between them before a final bill lands on the president's desk. Any one of those steps could still change the 15% threshold that is currently causing Mercedes so much trouble. So Mercedes has time and options, waivers, ownership restructuring, or continued lobbying to raise that threshold before 2030. But the bigger story here is what this reveals about how tangled global car ownership has become. A German company with American factories and thousands of American workers can find itself one Senate vote away from being treated the same as a Chinese state-owned automaker, all because of roughly 20% of its stock. And with Li Shufu now connected to three different automakers caught up in versions of this same fight, Polestar, Volvo, and now Mercedes, it is becoming one of the more remarkable threads running through the entire EV trade war. So what do you think? Should a company's operations and factory locations matter more than its shareholder list? Or does any meaningful Chinese ownership deserve this level of scrutiny, regardless of where the cars are actually built? And do you believe Cruz's claim that General Motors pushed for this rule to hurt a competitor? Let me know your take in the comments. If you want to keep following how trade rules like this one keep reshaping which cars Americans can buy, subscribe so you catch the next update. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.